Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
The film which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 youths, in particular, Sally Hardesty and her invalid brother, Franklin. It is all the more tragic in that they were young. But had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day. For them, an idyllic summer afternoon drive became a nightmare. The events of that day were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Good evening, and welcome to our special Halloween edition of Three Guys in a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the horribly absurd. For the next 4 weeks, we will be reviewing some of our favorite horror movie classics and their remakes, doing a little comparing and contrasting, picking our favorites, and having some fun discussions about the films that changed the landscape of horror movies forever. Tonight's episode, 1974's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the 2003 remake. Beware, spoilers. Coming to you from the boiler room, 1-2, I'm coming for you. My name is Don. And to my right, the guy guaranteed to haunt your dreams, this is John.
Glad to be here.
And to my left, the guy most likely to have a basement full of dead bodies, the Professor Ken.
I thought if we agreed that we weren't going to talk about that.
And tonight we have a special guest, one of our fans who recommended the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Ken's Hellspawn. This is TJ.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome to the show, buddy.
It's good to be here.
Good.
He's officially our first guest.
I know. Texas Chainsaw Massacre comes on a recommendation from TJ. So, hey, TJ, why did you recommend the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I recommended the Texas Chainsaw Massacre because we sort of popped, the first time I saw it, we sort of popped it on randomly, and I had been interested in it. I had heard about it, and I already like horror movies, and I had very low expectations going into it. I was just kind of like, all right, just going to watch this movie. And I liked how the movie lulled me into this false sense of security. Like, there's this very creepy and ominous opening, but then we spent a long time on the road, and it's very, like, I don't know if aloof is the right word, but it doesn't appear to be going in any direction. Like, these teens are going out, and then all of a sudden they come across Leatherface in broad daylight, and it just goes to shit so quickly.
Yeah.
And it feels so real, too. There's like a quality about it that almost makes it feel like a snuff film. There's nothing glamorous about it, and the movie just keeps going. What I also really like about it is I think it's like the most realistic horror ending, because there's the last survivor who gets away, like laughing maniacally just at her, sheer luck. And I feel like every other horror movie kind of ends with either like a last scare or like all the characters being like, oh, we defeated it and now everything's going to be better, and like we acquired the bonds of friendship along the way or something. Sure. And this movie ends in a way that I think every horror movie would realistically end, where someone is coming out of that experience completely traumatized, by just the sheer madness of it all. And it truly was madness. It's like an audio-visual assault, especially towards the end, and I thought that was so cool.
Well, you're not wrong on a lot of those points. Realistically, yeah, I'm sure that's the way a lot of horror movies would end. I wouldn't say all of them would end that way, but I understand what you're saying. And yeah, it happens in broad daylight, and that had never been done and still really hasn't been done. Every horror movie watches at night, and it's been a long time since I've seen this film. I know I definitely didn't see it when it was released because it was released the year I was born. So there you go. I had to see it on VHS. When I first watched it, it was like watching a snuff film, and the way Tobe Hooper made it and just everything about it. And the production was hell, this, that, and the other. And we'll get into all that. But, as kind of one of the first of its kind, not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Professor, have you ever seen this?
Yeah. TJ and I, we watched it probably a year ago.
Oh, was that the first time you'd seen it?
Yes. Yeah, first time I'd seen it. And I have to say, I was very impressed by the movie. It is a unique viewing experience. It is one of the few horror movies I can think of, or actually maybe even the horror movie that I would refer to as it feels raw. It is such a different cinematic experience than other horror movies. It is unique in that way, and it just feels genuine.
You've seen this before, haven't you?
Actually, I think this may have been my very first time watching the original. I'd seen bits and pieces of it here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'd never really gotten through it before because I always found it kind of disturbing and annoying. Just wasn't the kind of style of movie I liked. It just made me feel irritated. But then going back and watching this and reading a little bit about it, it's exactly what the director wanted. He wanted people to feel irritated and tense and uncomfortable while watching it. For the fact of like, he would use these long, intense scenes and then immediately go to shortcuts right after the intense scenes just so you'd feel uncomfortable. He'd use people screaming constantly and squealing and animal noises and things like that in the background to create that tension and that feeling that you just wanted to get through that part. So understanding that that's what he was going for, I can see some of the brilliance in this movie.
Yeah.
I think also maybe it wasn't a musical.
And so he didn't like it
Well,
as much.
yeah.
It wasn't a musical, and
It was predictable.
100% predictable. You saw the ending as soon as it started. So yeah.
The story has been done. So.
I wish you could see John's face, viewers.
Listeners.
I wish you could see John's face.
No, you don't. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. It was released on October 11th, 1974. Directed by Tobe Hooper. Written by Kim Henkel and Tobe Hooper. It stars Marilyn Burns, Paul A. Partan, Edwin Neal, Jim Cito, Gunnar Hansen, and it was narrated by John Larroquette. It was made for $140,000 and took home $40 million. So not too bad on the return, I suppose.
Impressive.
And that return spawned a whole lot of sequels.
Okay, raise of hands, just so you don't have to embarrass yourself in front of our listeners. How many people have seen the sequels? You dude, you haven't even seen this one, so I don't buy it. I don't believe you. So just me and TJ, huh? All right, well, guess what, guys? You're not missing much, and TJ and I are dumber than you guys, so I guess that's where it goes.
You remember the quote from the movie, the original, the guy who's upside down at the graveyard? I've seen things. I didn't really read much into that little moment, but you pointing it out the other night, rewatching it, I was like, that's actually like a really, really cool angle. And
yeah.
Like, I always sort of read it as like a very ominous moment in the opening where it's sort of like the town's a little kooky. I feel like you kind of expect that in every horror movie. Either the characters get to a gas station and someone at the gas station is weird, or they get into town and like people are just sort of talking to them with like leading dialogue, like don't get lost in the woods or whatever. But instead we get this guy at the graveyard with our characters for the first time who's got like this beer bottle in his hand and he's upside down in this chair. And he's framed in a way that's like focusing your attention, and it's almost like he's like delivering like an omen to the audience.
Yeah, for sure.
Our first piece of trivia: what was John Larroquette paid with to do the narration for this movie?
A big fat joint.
Yep, he agreed to do that opening narration for a marijuana joint.
Yeah, he was paid with a joint. That's pretty cool. And think about it. The narration is what? 10 seconds, 30 seconds, do it a couple times.
The following picture.
He says he's never even seen the movie.
I heard that too somewhere. Yeah,
it is
crazy,
all the
isn't
more
it?
tragic that they were young.
Yeah. Thank you.
He's got a great voice.
Larroquette. I didn't realize. I had heard that he also does the narration in the remake too, but it doesn't sound like him so much in the beginning.
I just thought it was
opening.
a straight audio rip. I think it was like...
That's what I thought too.
No, he came back for it.
Oh, he did? Well, because they don't say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Not by any...
He adds to it.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Did you watch the remake?
We did.
Oh, good.
And
Okay.
I instantly forgot about it because it's that bad.
Yeah, we'll get there. And
Actually, I would,
again, you're not wrong. Okay.
Can I say one thing about the sequels and the remakes?
Sure.
The one that we watched was not as bad as Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is horrendously bad, but we can talk about that later.
I think when it's bad, it's bad.
And then there's also New Beginning or something like that.
Those are prequels. I wouldn't. Those.
Yeah, I actually, after watching both of these movies, the original and the remake, I went and watched that recent Leatherface like prequel.
Did you really? Why?
By choice.
And I thought, okay, well, maybe it'll help make a little more sense of the movies.
Really?
No, avoid it.
Oh
No,
my God.
it is
Okay.
so bad.
First of all, I have so many problems with that sentence you just said. Make sense of what? What do you want made sense of?
I like to know the bad guy's origin a little bit. I like
He
to
wants
know
closure in his stories.
Yeah.
What the fuck? He's a fucking psycho, bud. You get that from the moment you see him. What more do you want to? Do you want to know why he's a psycho?
He's traumatized.
Does it make it better for you?
Not at all.
Okay, well then you give me a headache, dude.
I just wanted to give listeners a good warning that no, you do not need to go see that movie, and it'll actually hurt more if you do.
Yeah. Fucking A, yeah. I don't know if anything as bad as Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. But anyways, Sally, her paraplegic brother Franklin, and their friends Jerry, Kirk, and Pam visit the grave of Sally's grandfather to investigate reports of vandalism and grave robbing. Afterwards, they decide to visit the old family's homestead. Along the way, they pick up a hitchhiker. After having a tense issue with the deranged hitchhiker, the group kicks him out and eventually stops at a gas station to refill their vehicle. But the proprietor tells them that the pumps are empty. They continue toward the homestead. When they arrive, Kirk and Pam wander off and stumble upon a nearby house. Kirk enters the house and Leatherface suddenly appears and kills him with a hammer. Pam enters soon after, and when she attempts to flee, Leatherface catches her and impales her on a meat hook. Jerry heads out to look for Pam and Kirk. After he enters the house, Leatherface kills him as well. With darkness falling, Sally and Franklin set out to find their friends. As they near the neighboring house and call out, Leatherface lunges from the dark and kills Franklin with a chainsaw. Sally runs toward the house. She escapes from Leatherface and runs back to the gas station. The proprietor calms her and then ties her and gags her and forces her into his truck. He drives to the house, arriving at the same time as the hitchhiker, now revealed as Leatherface's brother. The men torment the bound and gag Sally. After a struggle, Sally breaks free and flees to the road. Leatherface and the hitchhiker give chase, but the latter is run over and killed by a passing truck. The truck driver flees, and Sally escapes in the back of a passing pickup truck as Leatherface swings his chainsaw in the air in anger and defeat. End movie. So yeah, that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a nutshell. What'd you like about the movie there, Professor?
I really enjoyed the uneasiness that we get picking up the hitchhiker, listening to his slaughterhouse stories, and having one of the characters being a paraplegic. You realize that somebody is instantly helpless in this movie, and it is most likely not going to play out well. I think it does a really nice job at setting the stage for something ominous coming.
Yeah, for sure. TJ, what'd you like about it?
Everything about it. I think it's just a perfect movie. I love the title. I love the intro. I love, like, after the opening narration, like the almost like the mini short of the camera clicking and the noise. It's like, oh, it's just creepy, and it instantly just puts you in like an uncomfortable state, and the movie just goes from there. And I just think it sets its tone perfectly. And the movie that like the editing is so good, it just like it keeps you like sort of like what John was saying, in a constant state of tension. The soundtrack in this movie is also like really, like I really dig the audio direction that they go in, because they're using like a lot of like industrial noises and pigs, and like I would almost describe it as like an ambient soundtrack, but it's got like there's just, it feels raw, sort of like what you're saying as well, Professor. And I really like the casting in this movie. I think the casting is excellent, and I think the casting is what also makes me really, really dislike the remake as well, because it's like, you know, it's the right cast really makes the movie. I believe all these people.
So you use the words "a perfect movie." Is it safe to say that this is your favorite horror movie?
I don't know if it's my favorite. It's not the first horror movie that I would show to a new friend, but it's definitely a movie I would put at like crowning jewel of horror movies.
All right, so let me ask you this. What would be the movie that you would show a new friend?
The first movie that's popping into my head is Hereditary.
I could have told you that. Yeah. All right, what'd you like about this movie?
I thought he was going to go Blair Witch.
Well, you both are wrong, but that's okay. Go on.
What I liked about this film, and I've said it before in other podcasts, is I don't like the, trying to build suspension and then just a quick jump scare or that. This had what I like to call oh shit moments, where you actually watch a movie and you find yourself saying out loud, oh shit. And for me, the very first one was when the first hammer fell. When Leatherface came out just from out of nowhere, that hammer came down. I wouldn't consider that a jump scare. I would consider that what I call the oh shit moment.
Sure.
Oh wow, that just happened. It was so quick. It was over. There was no build up. It really catches you. So I do like some of those moments. I do like that the director went for that uncomfortable feeling, and like TJ was saying, the soundtrack, the music behind, it gave you that feeling of, this is what I would hear in a slaughterhouse. I mean, we were walking into a slaughterhouse. So that kind of action was good. I also like that they didn't make the, Leatherface the main central figure of the whole movie. I mean, yes, he is the iconic character from the movie, but there was more to it than the movie. There was more, how do I word it? There was, each of the characters, the whole family was sinister and creepy and causing problems. The hitchhiker alone was scarier, I think, than Leatherface.
Oh my God, dude. The hitchhiker was fucking annoying.
What I do have to disagree with and can kind of go into dislikes, and, Don and I, you and I were talking about this. The casting was great because the way they created each of the cast members, I was looking forward to them getting killed.
Yeah, so was I. I was highly annoyed by the kid in the wheelchair. I get the direction of act annoying, right? But his annoying, I don't know. It just kind of drove me nuts. But I couldn't care less about any of these characters. I know that Sally was the final girl, going in and watching it. And then as the years go on, the scene where I guess it was Kirk gets hit with the hammer, the first victim, that goes down in some circles as one of the most goriest scenes in a horror movie history. However, there's no gore, right? This movie has been classified as one of the goriest movies ever made, but there is no gore.
It's amazing how well that worked in that he was going for the PG rating.
Yeah, but and I agree with you. These characters, I was kind of counting them down. Right. I was waiting for Leatherface to win.
But we do have to give Sally some credit. What are we giving her credit for?
I believe that she is the first final girl. Kind of what started it all. And this, let's talk about this for a second. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, whether you love it or hate it, is kind of responsible for Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers. I mean, all of them to come, right? In cinema.
And creating the template for the final girl.
Yeah.
In all of those future movies.
Yeah. And the movies that we're going to review upcoming, we got Friday the 13th, we have Nightmare on Elm Street, and we have Halloween. With the exception of maybe Friday the 13th, you got two of the strongest final girls ever in Jamie Lee Curtis and Heather Langenkamp. So.
Oh, I was going to say Friday the 13th. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I know I'm right.
To comment on the gore, I think the reason that it feels gory is because it's really credit to the framing of it, the creepiness of it, and also like the acting on part of like the first victim. When he gets hit with the hammer, he goes down and then he goes into like anaphylactic shock or something. Like, that's not glamorous. Like, you wouldn't see like a top billed Hollywood star just start writhing on the floor, but like that can happen. That can happen if you receive like really, really sudden blunt trauma to the head, and he has to hit him again to make it stop. And I think that is just like that's sort of what you were saying about like the oh shit moment. And I think it's just like it's the chaos of the sudden violence, and then the following of like, wow, like this person is in so much pain right now.
And you know what really caps that entire scene off is after
The
he hits
door.
him twice is the fucking door,
The door
right?
and the
It just
musical
slams shut.
sting.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
the musical sting to me confirms that what you just saw is like, this is how the movie's going to be. This is the rest of the movie.
And
Like,
so,
yeah.
and here's kind of I guess if I had a lot of problems with this film, it would be the pacing of it, right? We get this kill, a half hour, 45 minutes into the film, right? And then we immediately get the chick. And I think this one for me was probably the most disturbing. He fucking lifts her up and sets her on a fucking meat hook. Dude, that just, I couldn't even imagine that.
Yeah.
So,
And it's good framing too, because again, they don't really show gore in it, but the way that the camera goes behind the meat hook before she gets on it, like as Leatherface is carrying her in, you know that's where she's going.
Yeah.
And then she gets on it. There isn't even like an impact sound, but you feel it. You feel it. And she's not dead. Again, she's another character who's in agony, moments before they're completely gone.
Yeah.
And she ends up at the freezer, obviously, but
which I thought was funny when Sally opens it and she pops up.
yeah, that's actually Jerry. But
Oh,
yes.
you're right. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. When Jerry opens it and she
I-
pops out.
I would say that's like easily the corniest thing that happens in the movie. But what follows is another awesome death scene because Jerry, like he kind of goes in. I really like Jerry. Jerry's probably my favorite character because he says just like he's got this big ass afro. He's really funny looking, and he just what does he say when they're in the RVs? Like, you hear all this stuff your old lady's been hawking at me. Like, just the way that he talks, it's really entertaining. And he goes inside the house. He's like, "Quit goofing on me, guys! Quit goofing on me."
Well, TJ, let me ask you this question. Do you know where the director got his inspiration for this movie?
Yes, and it wasn't. I knew it before I read it, but reading this again on this paper also confirmed it. He was at a hardware store and he was tired of waiting in line. Toby Hooper was tired of waiting in line and thought about using a chainsaw to get out of there.
Yeah, to go right through all the customers to get out the door.
We've all had that moment, waiting in line.
Now, the one thing that, I have heard brought up before, and I thought it's kind of an interesting point. This movie is called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We only see in the movie one person killed by a chainsaw, which is the guy in the wheelchair. Is his name Francis or something like
Franklin.
that? Franklin.
Yeah.
Franklin killed by a chainsaw, which, of course, again, you don't see the gore. You just see him getting chainsaw in the stomach. And then you see the guy getting cut up by a chainsaw. But really, there's no chainsaw massacre.
Well, yeah. I mean, it came from Toby not wanting to wait in line. And I think the name is pretty ominous.
Yeah.
Right. But you're right. You only see it a couple times, and the first time we see it is with
It's with Kirk. Or wait. Pam gets up on the meat hook.
Yeah.
And it is.
She's,
it is.
she's
Kirk.
cutting the guy up, I think.
Yeah. He
oh
puts
that's
her
right.
on the-
She's watching too,
She's
right?
watching him
Yeah.
cut him up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you
she-
imagine that shit?
Yeah. She looks at the chainsaw. Leatherface revs it up, and we
Yeah.
cut away, but we know what's happening.
And when Sally and Franklin are out looking for him, Leatherface gets to drop on Franklin. That was the only time that I got a jump scare out of it.
It's the right kind of jump scare because I feel like something that happens later with sort of what we're talking about formatting with like the last girl. I feel like 20 years from now, what you will often see is characters slowly open the door, really, really creaking in, and there's nothing in there. Whew.
And then there's the scare.
Yeah,
That's kind of the formula
Yeah.
that horror movies have taken.
But this one's cool because like they're just yelling for their friend, which is already a stupid idea in a horror movie. Like you're already thinking like stop screaming Jerry. You're drawing attention to yourself, and we as the audience know that the danger is out there.
Right.
And it's the right kind of jump scare because he's coming at them with 100% energy. Chainsaw is up in the air. Right, and he's a big menacing figure. It's the right kind of like holy shit, he easily bodies Franklin, and then he like marathon runs after the other girl who's present, and that's like the next like 10 minutes is just full force running with that chainsaw.
which I thought went on a bit too long for me as well.
I
but
love it.
What I was gonna say was you said something about not screaming out their names wasn't the best of ideas, right? Well, anybody that's in a horror movie typically
They're gonna
don't
do it.
make great
Yeah.
decisions, right? So
I feel like this movie invented the idea or the rule of don't go anywhere alone.
Maybe.
Because it seems like every time, someone got missing, someone else went off alone away from the group to find him.
Well, yeah, but I mean that the killer's got to get him somehow, right? And if you kill them all together too quick, your movie's over.
Yeah.
I really was surprised at like the pacing of this movie. I feel like makes it feel less like there is definitely that vibe you get in other horror movies where like all these characters are like, we're going to keep on going off alone to go find somebody else who's gone missing for too long. But like it happens in such quick succession that like it feels realistic that they would be like, oh, they're not dead. Like they aren't anticipating like, oh, Jerry's been gone for a moment. We aren't expecting him to be cut up with a chainsaw. We think they're just going to the river and back.
No, I totally agree.
Did you know that this movie had a positive effect? Texas state troopers reported that crime went down 18% because people stopped picking up hitchhikers.
I was going to say, well, people just stopped going to Texas.
He is definitely the worst hitchhiker you could pick up.
Yeah, I guess his name is Nubbins.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was a bit out there. And, why you're picking up a hitchhiker in the first place, I'll never know. But the whole bit with him in the van and he cuts Franklin, and it was just weird.
The moment he cut his own hand, he would have been out the door. First of all, I wouldn't have picked him up.
Right.
He has blood on his face. Okay, don't pick up a hitchhiker.
Was that blood or was that a birthmark?
It was a birthmark.
Oh, it was a birthmark?
It's a birthmark,
okay.
yeah.
That's what I kind of thought. But he started talking about all the slaughterhouse stuff and then Frank and him and we're bonding. But the moment he takes the knife and he cuts his hand, oh, no.
Yeah, get him the fuck out.
Yeah, you got to go.
You got to go. What didn't you like about the movie, Professor?
What did I not like? I thought it was ridiculous that they showed up at the grandfather's estate and it's just a frame of a house and they were planning on staying there. I don't know. It seemed like they brought no supplies with them whatsoever.
Yeah.
They were going to go for a swim, but I don't know. Were they going to stay there? They looked entirely ill prepared to be there.
No, I don't think they were going to stay. They were just waiting for the gas truck.
And also the fact that you go wandering into somebody else's house, I don't know, the different times, I guess. People used to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Even though the door is open, I don't go into that fucking house.
I don't go into other people's houses that I've never met or seen before.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess if you used logic, then
Yeah.
we wouldn't have a horror film.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also weird that like Kirk like really hesitates to get in the house and then he gets through the screen door and then he like runs into the house, which is really weird.
Yeah.
That makes him trip, obviously, but like you're right about like no, like A, don't go into the house, but B, don't run into the scary house. You know,
Right.
now that you've determined that there's no one in the front doorway.
Well, it didn't necessarily look scary from the outside, did it?
No, it does because he.
Oh,
looks
it looks
through.
like a very menacing house.
It's very, very nice on the outside with the beautiful swing, but he looks through and he sees that room that's full of animal heads.
Yeah. And
In
he
the
wants to-
red wall.
And he wants to go check it out. So
That
You-
that alone would tell me
you kind of deserve to get hammered to the head. Good job.
For me, the things that bothered me the most, I think, are the things that the director wanted you to wanted to be an issue, which is, first of all, the long setup before, we have the hitchhiker, but then the long setup before we even get to the house. Like you were talking about earlier, it seems like 30 minutes of just nothing. Mm-hmm. And then the other part that really just got on my last nerve was the constant screaming at the end. But I know that the director wanted you to feel the tension and how disturbing it was and just be uncomfortable. But it almost made me want to turn the movie off.
Right. So there is a fine line, right? Wanting the audience to feel comfortable and then taking it too far where the audience tunes out. And I am of the latter. As soon as she started screaming, 15 more minutes of screaming, I kind of tuned out of it and it was like, all right, let's hurry up and get this over with. Mm-hmm. So, but I get the attempt, and for in the beginning it works.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And
so.
I may be a little sick in the head, but
What?
at that dinner party when she kept screaming and screaming and screaming, all I kept thinking was just finish her off so it's over. Just do it.
Yeah, but they didn't want to. That's the point. The
I
screaming
know.
got them off. So
I know.
I love when they bring her in and they want Grandpa to knock her out.
Did
Good old grandpa.
you know that the part, and I watched this in a documentary, The part where they cut her finger and Grandpa sucks on her finger, they filmed that for a long time. It had a tube with blood in it. And they filmed it over and over and over again. And the heat and the spoiled meat and all that, the smell was getting to all the actors, that the grandpa actor, they actually cut her finger for real and sucked on her finger, like the blood out of her finger. And that screaming she was doing was real screaming. She was really that disturbed by it.
Do you know why they had to film and film and film? Because it took 10 hours to get Grandpa into that makeup, and he wasn't getting in and out of it, and they were getting that shot that day.
Yeah.
Because he refused to do it again.
Right. Yeah. What didn't you like about the movie, TJ? Although you did say perfect.
I would say that, like, the things I don't like, I'm willing to let Pam jumping out of the freezer slide. I think that's a little goofy. But to me, it doesn't really bother me. The thing that kind of bothers me is actually a detail of the hitchhiker being inside the van. And he's inside the van for a really long time, and I feel like I start paying attention to what's in the windows. And to me, it feels like we look out the windows, we don't even see trees. It just looks like it looks like the van is just in a white room. And I don't know if that's like something with like the camera exposure settings or something, but like it made it feel like the van was on a set almost, and it kind of takes me out a little, but the dialogue keeps me in.
Wow.
So TJ and we talked about it. My thought was that was there to isolate us, to focus only on the hitchhiker and not be distracted by we're on a road trip.
Yeah, and I completely understand that direction, but like it kind of bugs me a little.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you notice it, then obviously it didn't work.
It takes me out. Yeah.
I didn't notice. I couldn't care. The hitchhiker was creepy, but I was kind of hoping that he would have reached over and cut Franklin's throat. What was your favorite kill?
My favorite kill. Good question. It's probably a tie between Kirk or Jerry. I love Jerry's scream. Jerry's scream to me makes it feel like a snuff film. Because Jerry's scream to me, every time I hear it, it sounds like he knows that like he's gonna die, and it's an agony scream of like just suddenly being in the, because he's like I think 2 feet away from Leatherface when it happens. He opens up the freezer, he's sort of scared to see Pam, and he turns around and Leatherface is just there, and Jerry just sort of lets out like he's trying to scream but he can't quite breathe yet. He's like, it's one of those like really riling yourself up, and then he's just dead. And I also love the moments after that where Leatherface sort of is running back and forth in that room. Like he looks like he's frantic, and then he there's a lot of really, really nice sound design in there too, because you hear the chicken going, cuckoo, cuckoo, and it's just kind of like adding to the sense of like, this is insane, and we see Leatherface like run up to the windows and he's checking outside to see if anyone else is there. Because I think he feels like he's defending his home right now. These random people are walking into his house, and he sits down in that chair and he starts like cradling his head and he's rocking back and forth. And like, it's traumatic for the audience, and it's even more traumatic for Leatherface as well. It's a weird sort of like the villain it's almost like he didn't want to do that. It's almost like he feels remorse, but you can tell on the close-up that like he's clearly disturbed. That his rationale is not the same as ours.
Oh, look at you having sympathy for Leatherface.
Well, I don't really know if it's sympathy, but I like that detail, because we never see Jason or Freddy or anyone like sort of like put down the machete or whatever and be like,
oh shit,
I need to breathe for a moment, man. I've been killing a lot of people.
Well, if your killer has to do that, then he's a fucking pussy. So how about that?
Here's the thing about Leatherface, though. Okay, he hauls, brother, and like that's the that's the thing about the final girl when she's running after her brother gets destroyed in the wheelchair. Like Leatherface just can keep trucking, and he's running at full tilt at her, and it's scary, and she's screaming, and I would be in the exact same boat where I'm running with like complete adrenaline right away from this thing that is out of my weight class, because Leatherface is a big hulking brute of a man, and he's got a chainsaw. So it's, yeah.
I read somewhere that Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface, even in his like big heels and this mask he couldn't see out of, kept running faster than the final girl. So that's why during that scene when they're running through the woods, he had to stop every so often and cut the trees and the branches and swing at things because he kept catching up to her.
Right.
So I thought that was just kind of funny. That's why, like, he can really run, I guess, in that stuff.
Well, Hooper should have had him kill her.
Yeah.
It would have ended it 20 minutes sooner, and I would have been happier.
What was your favorite kill, Don?
My favorite kill, I think, I really like when Leatherface puts what's her name on the hook. I've always found that disturbing, and I've always found that just, my God, just the agony and where that hook would go when you're still alive and you get to feel everything, and all you can do is sit there and hang.
And then she watches her boyfriend get chopped up.
And then she's
still alive for that.
Right, yeah. But we don't actually really get to see her die. We know she's dead, but we don't know if the hook is the cause of it, so I wouldn't classify that as my favorite kill. My favorite kill is Kirk's. And what does it for me is, like when you were saying, when he gets on the ground and his legs start twitching and Leatherface has to hit him again, and it's the impact and the sound, and he closes the door, fucking chilling. So that's mine.
I dug the urgency of that kill. It is a very brisk kill, and that is my favorite kill as well.
Yeah, I mean, you go back and you look at what would soon become the slasher genre. Later on, we'll get villains that take their time or want to play with their food, or, you know what I mean, just prolong it. And then we'll get to modern horror movies where we have to watch them torture someone, and it goes on and on and on. This one was straight to the point, and it was very effective, and I fucking loved it.
And the door closing.
Cherry on top.
For me, it's more of the non-traditional. Sometimes I just like to see people get their comeuppance, and that would be Nubbins at the end. When he ran out in front of the truck and did maybe it was the first time, maybe this is what started the whole thing of waving his hands and everything when he could have just stepped out of the way of the truck. And,
when he gets hit,
waiting for the truck to hit him.
Yeah.
Just seeing Nubbins get splattered. I don't know. There was just something about that I really enjoyed.
And knowing that it's a dummy or it's fake, obviously, but just the thought of it, right? The
the 18-wheeler.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
So I just enjoyed, I didn't see that coming, and so I kind of enjoyed that comeuppance.
Nice.
I would even go as far as to say that, like, I am glad that he is the only one that dies in the movie. Because, like, at the end of it, Leatherface, he's just sort of swinging his chainsaw. Like, I like that we know that Leatherface is still out there. Even though I don't want a sequel to this movie, obviously, I'm okay with Leatherface still being alive at the end. The Hitchhiker, to me, I feel like he's like more sadistic about his torture of the girl, especially when they take off her hood, and he's like, "Oh, I've seen you earlier," and for her, that's just like, "Oh my God, could my day get any worse?"
Yeah, it probably could.
I think that was her exact thoughts.
Yeah. But it just like the realization that, like, the person wearing the skin mask and the guy that we picked up earlier happened to be related. Like, holy shit.
Like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
For sure. John, what was your favorite scene of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
It was, it's funny that you asked. My favorite scene is also the scene that I dreaded the most, which was the dinner scene. The reason is, I was annoyed by it. I was annoyed with the screaming. I thought it went on a long time. But when you read about how that scene was made and what the actors had to go through to make it, they were, as you were saying earlier, I mean, they spent 10, 12 hours in this room where they had no air conditioning. It was like 110 degrees out. They had rotting meat sitting on that table, so the smell was horrible. The actors actually took turns going to the one window and puking their guts out in between takes.
Yeah, it was like a 20-hour day.
So that uncomfort and that hostile feeling that they're all portraying is what they're actually all feeling at the time. And then you got to look at, Gunner, who is in that full gear with that mask on and everything. And because of the way the budget was and everything, the outfits couldn't be cleaned, anything like that. His outfit smelled so bad by the time they got to that scene that the actors didn't even want to be near him. So just knowing what they all went through to create that kind of makes that my favorite scene.
Interesting. Professor?
I like the way the dinner scene was shot. The dinner scene and the tension and the close-ups of Sally, and it is horrifying watching that scene unfold.
Yeah. Teach.
Right now, the scene I'm thinking of, and I feel like I'm going to have a better answer after I finish talking about it, but when Pam goes in to look for Kirk, and she gets into the house, and she stumbles into the room full of feathers.
That was uncomfortable.
Yeah, and she sees the bone furniture, and like we get all these close shots of like everything in that room, and like every shot just adds to the insanity of it all. You know, it's human bones, it's animal bones, and they've been collected for a while, and they're trophy pieces, and it's clear that like she has stumbled into absolute hell, and I think she knows once she's landed in there and she gets up that like she's not going to live. Whoever made that room is going to be in that room in like T-minus 3 seconds because of all the noise that she made, and Leatherface bringing her back into the house. I guess I would say that scene then, because I do love that shot of Pam trying to run away and Gunner
just coming through the door
and picking her up. And like, I think that also kind of speaks to me on like a primal fear kind of level, in that like being someone who is kidnapped or someone that is like being assaulted by someone who is just physically bigger than you, and just the helplessness of it. You know, she's kicking and screaming and clawing at that door frame, you know, trying to stay outside, trying to make as much noise as possible. And it doesn't matter. You know, she's completely helpless.
Yeah.
I don't know which member it was, if it was a member of the crew, if it was the director, but I guess they drove all over Texas collecting roadkill for this movie. All the bones and the feathers, it's all real stuff. They had no fake stuff. They actually went and got tons of it, and then I guess at the wrap party, they burned it all behind that cabin, behind that house.
Gross. Can you imagine the smell of that fire?
Oh, it was horrible.
No.
Anyway, Don, what was your favorite scene?
I think it has to be when Sally gets away, like we were talking about, and she's in the back of that pickup. And first of all, it's kind of the whole sequence when she gets out to the road, right? Because the truck driver gets out and wants to help her, but then he just ditches his rig and starts taking off, right? And then Sally sees the truck, she gets in the back, and then it's at that moment when she starts laughing maniacally and just hysterically, like she had just been through hell and she fucking survived, right? And so she was kind of laughing at, you know, at all of the trauma and just the way that went down, and then Leatherface kind of doing his dance at the end, and then we just cut to black. And yeah, so I like that whole bit with them and them on the road.
I think the road even gives you like a little bit of like a final laugh, because like I feel like all I think about on the road is like those two drivers. How long have they been on the road? 40 minutes? Maybe the trucker's been on the road for hours. And then all of a sudden, this girl covered in blood just runs out into the street, and your instant reaction is, I should probably help that person. And then the next thing you see is this chainsaw wielding maniac, you know, like the pickup truck, he swerves off the road.
Yeah.
I think very realistically to be like, holy shit, what is happening right in front of me? And like wherever he was going, he goes in reverse. He's heading back to where he goes, because I think he does like the full turn, right? He's probably going to the grocery store, probably checking on his folks or whatever. Not important anymore. What's important is getting the fuck out of here, you know, as fast as humanly possible.
For sure.
And that, that ending is fantastic.
Yeah. All right, so that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre for 1974. Should we go into our ratings? No, I'm just kidding. We'll do that at the end.
Yeah, why don't we talk about the 2003 remake?
I'm just going to say this once. Do we have to?
It's so forgettable. There's nothing to the movie.
All right, we'll talk about it.
The film which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 youths. It is all the more tragic in that they were young, but had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see, as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day. For them, an idyllic summer afternoon became a nightmare. For 30 years, the files collected dust in the Cold Cases Division of the Travis County Police Department. Over 1,300 pieces of evidence were collected from the crime scene at the Hewitt residence. Yet none of the evidence was more compelling than the classified police footage
of the crime scene walkthrough. The crime scene was not properly secured by Travis County Police. 2 investigating officers were fatally wounded that day. This is the only known image of Thomas Hewitt, the man they call Leatherface. The case today still remains open.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 was released on October 17, 2003, directed by Marcus Nipsel. Screenplay by Scott Kozar. Stars Jessica Biel, Jonathan Tucker, Erica Learsham, Mike Vogel, Eric Balfour, and Arlie Remy. Narrated by John Larroquette. It was made for $9.5 million and made over $107 million at the box office.
Now, the big question about this movie, did it even need to be remade?
Well, that poses a bigger question. Do any of the remakes need to be made?
Yeah, I mean, is there a reason? Like, do they think they can do it better, or is it just a money grab? And I felt like this one, just a money grab.
Well, I think that it does have its similarities to the first one, but the filmmakers tried to do something that was a little bit more on, tried to give it a different take. And though I applaud them for the effort because it's a remake and not necessarily a shot-for-shot remake, because really, who wants that, right? So if they're taking the property and they're trying to do something different, hats off to them. The problem is what they chose and what they came up with wasn't done very well. So like you were saying, Teach, it's kind of a forgettable film.
Yeah, it's just a weaker cast. There's more convoluted story plots, I feel like. Like, there's a real simplicity. Even you describing the synopsis of the 1974 movie, it's like, it is deceptively simple. It's the cinematography and, like, the realness of it that carries it. In this movie, it's like I'm really bothered by how big the family is and just, like, all the different aspects of, like, their horror. Like, the cop being related to them, I feel like, is a really random stretch. The lady at the diner also being related to him, the mama. And
then the 2 in the camper, and then the little kid. It's like this family kept going on and on and on, right? Yeah. They run this whole part of Texas, and I'm not going to Texas, well, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, no, I agree with you. It does get convoluted in a lot of ways. The changes I did kind of like, I guess, was, instead of looking for checking for the grave robber, you have them wanting to go to a Leonard Skinner concert, and they just been to Mexico, and now they're exporting a bunch of weed across the border, and you have that whole subplot line. And again, the filmmakers tried to do something different than the original. Yes, they're on a trip, but it's a different reason for a trip. Again, the execution just wasn't really there. On August 18th, 1973, 5 young adults, Aaron, her boyfriend Kemper, and their friends Morgan, Andy, and Pepper are on their way to a concert after traveling to Mexico. While driving through Texas, the group picks up a severely traumatized hitchhiker. After they try and talk with the hitchhiker, she pulls out a revolver and shoots and kills herself. The group goes to a nearby diner to contact the police, where a woman named Luda May tells them to meet Chef Hoyt at the mill. Instead, they find a young boy named Jedediah who tells them Hoyt is at home getting drunk. Aaron and Kemper go through the woods to find the house. They come across a house, and Aaron is allowed inside by an amputee named Monty to call for help. Kemper goes inside to look for Aaron and is killed by Leatherface. Meanwhile, Hoyt arrives at the mill and disposes of the hitchhiker's body. After Aaron discovers that Kemper is missing, she and Andy go back to Monty's house, and Aaron distracts him while Andy searches for Kemper. Leatherface attacks Andy with a chainsaw. Aaron and Andy escape and head toward the woods, but Leatherface hacks off Andy's left leg and carries him to the basement, where he impales him on a meat hook. Leatherface, now wearing Kemper's face as a mask, tracks down Aaron and Pepper. Leatherface kills Pepper. Aaron runs and hides in a nearby trailer and passes out after the owner gives her drugged tea. Aaron wakes up at the Hewitt house, surrounded by the entire family: Leatherface, his mother, Luda May, Hoyt, Monty, and Jedediah. Aaron is taken to the basement, where she finds Andy and kills him to end his suffering. Afterwards, she finds Morgan handcuffed in a bathtub. Together, they escape the house with the help of Jedediah. Leatherface catches up with them and kills Morgan. Aaron escapes and hides in the slaughterhouse. She attacks Leatherface with a meat cleaver, chopping off his right arm. Erin runs outside and is picked up by a passing trucker who drives her back to the diner to find help. Erin hotwires Hoyt's cop car and Hoyt tries to stop her, but she runs him over repeatedly. Leatherface appears in the road and slashes the car with his chainsaw, but Erin manages to escape. 2 days later, 2 investigating officers are killed by Leatherface while doing a crime scene investigation of the Hoyt house, and a narrator states that the case remains open. End movie. I remember when the trailer came out and it did that camera popping sound, and you got glimpses of Leatherface, and I thought maybe, okay, this might be okay, right? But then I found out who produced it. Does anybody know who produced it?
Was this another Weinstein one?
No.
Michael Bay.
Oh, Michael Bay.
Mr. Special Effects himself. So right there, I know that, we might be in trouble. However, that being said, with our horror movie series that we're doing here, 3 of the 4 movies that we're going to talk about were produced by Michael Bay. So listeners, beware.
I thought the movie had no tension whatsoever. I didn't raise my eyebrows to any of it. It felt way too contrived and forced. In general, it wasn't scary at all. It looked like a prop, like a big haunted house prop.
That's exactly what I was thinking as they go through the house and you see the hands and you see the fingernails and can we talk about the mask real quick for Leatherface? Fucking dumb. It looked like something you would pick up at the Halloween store. Mm-hmm. At least the original one looked shitty and handmade,
barbaric.
I thought the only time they got a little clever was when he makes the mask of her boyfriend,
of Kemper.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. I just wish
I laughed out loud.
So did I. I wrote that in my notes. Laughed out loud when we see Kemper's face.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
it was absurd.
Yeah. So, and we kind of talked about the characters from the first one. I'm just going to throw this out there right now. I didn't like these characters. I couldn't, again, kind of like the first one, I couldn't wait for all of them to get killed. But the one that drove me the most nuts and the one I disliked the most was this Kemper character. He's just is like watching a piece of cardboard trying to act, and when he was trying to be the tough guy, and he's just kind of that asshole boyfriend that's typical for these movies. And I was happy when he got it, and so that's why I laughed when his face got put onto Leatherface's head. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I think the big difference between this cast and the cast from the original is it feels like the cast from the original doesn't deserve it. They just feel like innocent people that were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and these guys in this remake, they just feel like your horror movie cast,
Yeah, they really do. And you're right. The people in the first one don't really deserve this. And I guess if you're kind of going along those lines, Jessica Biel and the chick, they make them stop to pick up this hitchhiker. And that just goes to show you, don't ever be nice. Because it's the people that are fucking nice get fucking chainsawed up the Yahoo. So, I mean,
if you had to put character traits, I think, on pretty much all the guys in this movie, I think douchebag would be at the top of it.
Yeah. Douche, stoner, slut, goody, and then the blonde kid, Andy. I mean, his I guess the jock type or something.
Well, isn't our first scene with him, we just see him getting it on in the back of a van. I was just okay.
That was creepy.
This movie was gross, man. And that was my lasting impression of it. It was just the lustiness of it was just so over the top.
Oh, you're such a prude.
For I was gonna say real quick, for me,
I'm not denying it.
I will say that this movie for me had kind of one, maybe a slight oh shit moment, which was I didn't see the hitchhiker killing herself.
What the hell is she doing with a gun up her crotch?
Yeah, where did she pull that gun from?
Well, I'll give you 2 guesses, but I'm pretty sure you're only going to need one.
Yeah, I mean,
why is she walking down the road concealing the gun like that? I have
in her
no
personal
idea.
holster.
Also,
they call it her prison purse.
So she just experienced Leatherface, right? That's why she's like that. If she had the gun, why didn't she just kill him?
Yeah, it it felt like she
It's
was
shocking.
put there. Yeah, she the writers were writing, and they said, okay, we got to do something different. Let's pick up a hitchhiker. And the other writer said, yeah, but we did that. They did that in the first film. And then the other writer said, yeah, but it wasn't a girl, and she didn't pull a gun out of her hoo-ha. And someone said, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's fucking write it down. And that's what we got.
I think they were trying to create a certain tension, a certain unease, a certain like, oh, you're already creeped out in the beginning of the movie. And it just didn't work.
Well, the tension instantly goes away when they do that stupid fucking shot where they're all screaming and the camera backs out of her head.
Oh, this
It's
is
just
Michael
so
Bay. Yeah.
stupid.
So
And that's
bad.
what I mean about the movie being gross.
There's a fucking Transformer shot, right? I mean, they're standing up, the camera comes up, and then it does the 360.
Yep.
It's the Bad Boys
Yep.
and Transformer shot in Nightmare on Elm. Or
Yep.
oh my God, I almost fucking created a faux pas.
Transformers
Sacrilege.
4, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Whoa, watch your fucking mouth, youngster. I will kick you in the balls.
And the hole in her head. Holy moly. That is a huge hole. Why would you not use that gun on Leatherface?
Yeah. Well, okay, and I agree with all of you on everything you've just said. This one, though, however, made me jump more than the other ones, and I appreciated that. There are small, tiny, minute elements of this film that I appreciate.
Name one.
The jump scares. They got me. They got me a couple times, and I'm not afraid to admit it. And that's why I watch these. That's why I want to watch horror films, because I want to be scared. I want to be made to feel uneasy or uncomfortable, and on my own terms.
Well, let me
but
ask you-
this movie did an okay job. I thought the sound design was fine. I have a really good friend at work. She worked at a movie theater when this came out, and she doesn't do horror movies at all, right? So her coworkers had this version, and locked her in the theater and made her watch it. And I couldn't imagine, because I mean, just the bangs and the booms and the theater experience. I think if you saw this in a theater with people, as dumb as it is, I think those moments would work in a theater. So those are the moments that I appreciated.
Well, let me ask you this, since it's a question that we asked. Is that what you liked about the movie, or was there something other specific that you liked about this movie
Okay, well, let's get into that.
besides the credits?
Yeah. The jump scares I liked. The deaths were okay. They tried to change it up a little bit but still sticking to the same formula. Instead of the girl on the hook, we get the guy on the hook. I thought we were way over dramatic when she had to kill her friend, and it was kind of a poor decision. Not much that I liked about this film, but I will say, I appreciate that they tried to do something different. I just wish that they had succeeded.
Yeah, the execution was poor.
Yeah. This movie was fucking boring as
I was
fuck.
like every 10 minutes. What time is it now? What time is it now?
We don't see the chainsaw until 44 minutes into it, and it's got to be that gotcha moment, right? It's the same door. It's the two characters comparable to the first film, and the door slams open, and you get that shot of them screaming, and then he's got a 12-foot blade on that chainsaw, right? And that right there, you're just kind of hokey.
Professor, was there a scene that you liked?
Nothing really comes to mind. I was annoyed by a lot of scenes, but nothing really comes to mind for anything that I cared for. I guess it was modestly amusing when we have Aaron getting picked up by a truck and he's taking her right back to where she left, and hey, she's gonna be just like the hitchhiker, except she doesn't have a gun to shoot herself.
And the bit about the stolen baby and
Lame.
her, I know it just didn't fit with what I think they wanted to do.
And
But
the
what do I
whole
know?
slaughterhouse scene, just all that BS going through that. I was annoyed as well that Leatherface loses his arm, because okay, how do you operate the chainsaw and hold it? He shouldn't be able to operate the blade and wield it. You do one or the other.
Right. Well, maybe he
You can learn from Ash Williams.
Yeah, well, maybe he maybe he learned from Ash. Let's go watch Evil Dead 2 again. Is there anything you liked about it?
I'm going to say no, but I will give the movie credit for one little thing. I really like the eye hole that Leatherface looks through in the wall.
Oh my God, I thought that was so cliche.
I just thought it was creepy looking. I mean, but I like the sound on it. the little creakiness of like, and the character not quite knowing what it is right away.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'll give the sound design a little bit of
Yeah.
bit of credit.
Like that is the only thing I like about this movie, and like it's not even something that I like. It's just a detail that I feel like if I were watching this movie and like giving an honest opinion of it, I'd be like, that part was okay. The rest of it sucked, but that part was okay.
Yeah.
This movie was like, I thought all of its characters were just really, really gross. And what really surprises me is I really like Arlie Remy. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Yeah. Ermy.
I like him as a person on like TV shows and crap, but in this movie, he's fucking gross, man. Like when he gets that girl and he wraps her in the saran wrap, he's like, "You boys have some fun with her before you got her," and it's like, ugh, like he's just gross. And I know we're supposed to know that he's gross, but he's like exceptionally gross.
Well, that's kind of the point of his character.
But it's too much. I don't know. I find like, I also feel like he's enjoying saying his lines too much. Like, it's just, I don't find like the hinting at sexual abuse because it's scary to be very scary. I mostly just think like this is just gross and molesty, and like it's not making me want to watch this movie anymore, you know?
I agree with you. He is swarmy and gross.
I just think it's too much.
Yeah, I was happy to see him getting run over repeatedly. That was another part of this film where I laughed out loud.
Me too.
Was when she hit him, I went, ha! And then she stopped, and I started laughing again because I knew exactly what she was going to do. She was going to back up over him again. I thought that was kind of
That's
fun.
one thing that we say in all these movies that we've been watching, which is, why doesn't anybody double tap?
TJ and I were also commenting about how much story is dedicated to Sheriff Hoyt. What the heck? Why? He's almost like a sideline story that takes us away from.
Right, and you get the inspiration from where he came from. He comes from the proprietor of the gas stations, because very, very similar, right? But yeah, why are we getting so much? And I know later down the line in the fucking stupid sequels, we find out that he's not really the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
He killed the sheriff and took his car and his uniform.
They revealed that in this remake.
I think that's to be inferred.
Yeah, basically when I think one of them was on the phone.
Oh, when
the
it's
police,
when it's implied. Okay,
they said, "Oh, Hoyt's already arrived," and they said, "But the police is supposed to be here in 10 minutes
or 30 minutes." Yeah,
30 minutes.
Yeah, I know what
you
you
definitely
mean.
get the vibe that like he's not a real cop. Just in the way that he handles the business and
yeah.
Was there any scenes that you disliked?
Well, let's see. Well, there's every scene with Kemper in it.
the entire viewing experience.
The entire viewing experience. You know what drove me crazy? And, you know, you guys know that I don't get to watch movies for entertainment value anymore. I always have to watch them with kind of like a filmmaker eye or an editor's eye. And TJ knows what I'm talking about. The scene where Jessica Biel kills Andy when he's hanging on the hook, she stabs him, and then we cut to his face, or we cut away, and then when we cut back to Jessica Biel, she's covered in blood. That is, jump cuts drive me up the fucking wall, and it's just, pay attention, guys. What the fuck? You get paid millions of dollars to do this, and we're having continuity errors. And I'm talking to you, Peter Jackson, Two Towers. But it just drove me nuts. And then after that, I was just like, oh, fuck, come on. Right?
I was thinking, oh, fuck, come on, with the amount of time that Aaron and Leatherface are running around at the end with his chainsaw.
Well, yeah, we had to build up Jessica Biel as the final girl, and unnecessary, right?
Totally.
Get away already.
Something that really bugged me, and I thought that it was an interesting take they did in the original that they totally screwed up in the remake, was in the original, Leatherface has 3 masks. And he wears them to represent different personality. He has his killing mask, he has his homemaker mask, and he has his like woman mask. In this one, there's no real purpose to his mask. In fact, he just makes a Kemper mask out of the blue just because he wants to make a Kemper mask.
Well, I think he's always wanted to be, and this is funny because none of this is explained in the films. Yeah. I think it's funny that you say that because Leatherface wants to feel pretty because he was born deformed. Right? I mean, that's the whole
The first movie
bit.
he was deformed. The second movie he had a skin condition.
Anyways, the point is he wears Kemper's mask because he thinks that Kemper is attractive. He thinks he's a good specimen, right? I just found that scene funny. You know what I mean? And I don't need all the backstory of any of the killers.
No.
Right? What you give me in the movies, I will accept.
Yeah, why do we need to know their feelings?
The other thing that bothered me was how long that Leatherface just kind of stood there while she was hacking his arm off.
Right.
I mean, hack.
With a meat cleaver. Oh,
At
and
no time did he just pull his arm back.
and she's hiding in a locker. He walks away. Why are you calling him back? Get out and go the other fucking way and run on the fucking road, right? Why are we running in and out of all these houses and slaughterhouses and this, that, and the other? Get on the open highway and just start fucking running.
Yeah, making a lot of work for the film crew too. Every time they go to a new house, dude, that's a whole nother set day, brother. You gotta that's another location move.
Spoken
on.
like a true filmmaker. Well done, TJ.
Exterior road day. That's all we need.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
And the whole gathering of the family at the end with the little baby, and they're all there. I realize that you know that's their normal life, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting when you think about what's normal, and for this family, that's normal. Apparently, that you whack up people and such, but don't care.
Yeah, who gives a fuck?
Well, to add to that, in that scene, isn't the mom also like ironing some clothes or something? Like
she's ironing the Hoyt's pants.
Yes,
he's
that's
sitting there
right.
with no pants.
It's just so stupid, and I just kind of feel like she has this attitude of like, "Oh, you boys, you know, I'm always picking up after you, serial killing fuckers." You know,
It seems
Yeah.
like they were trying to go two different directions with this movie, to be kind of the serious, tense movie, and then to be just over the top ridiculous.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But
100%.
yeah, the family dynamic is just creepier in the original because like when Sally goes upstairs and is asking for help, we see like we don't know that Grandpa is alive yet. Like he looks dead.
Yeah.
And Mom looks especially dead. And there's something to be said about like how there's like no like female or like matriarchal position in this family.
For sure.
And like when they're at the dinner table, it's like, I mean, the guy who runs the gas station, I don't quite understand why he's like, I just take no pleasure in killing, because it's clear that he does. But like you can see that they are the way that they are because their family unit is fractured in some way. They're you know, they're holding on to a grandpa who, you know, barely clings to life for, you know, just to murder other people because grandpa's good at it or whatever. And
Yeah. All right, favorite kills, Professor.
This version, I can't think of one. Oh, when Sheriff Hoyt dies, I like that. That was fun.
Yeah, you like that one?
Backing up.
Yeah, backing up. John?
I got to agree with the professor. Mine was Hoyt, that I've been craving a double tap, and we finally got a double tap.
There
We
you
got
go.
a triple tap.
Oh, yeah, because she goes back, and then she's got to go forward again.
Yeah, she definitely sent a message.
Yeah, for sure. TJ, favorite kill?
you know, I'm going to have to agree with, because I don't even, like, I'm looking at this list of all the people that were killed, and the only one I remember is the hitchhiker. Like, I don't even remember how these characters died. Like, I knew that they were all bloody. I remember they're all dying in agony. There's blood everywhere, but like none of those deaths are really memorable.
Yeah, but there wasn't a whole lot of blood everywhere.
Well,
They cut away a lot.
But I mean, like the guy on the meat hook. What was his name
Andy.
again?
Andy.
Like, he's just in agony for like 4 fucking scenes where he's like
Yeah.
trying to get himself
Let's
off
go
the
back
hook.
to him. Yep, still in agony.
Yeah,
Let's
like-
go back to him again. Yep, still in agony.
I think if you the part where he tries to lift himself up the first time and then he falls, I think you kill him there.
Yeah.
Right?
It
We don't
didn't
need to
make
come back to
sense.
him, right? And have her, and he was really, I don't know if the word is nonchalant about, you know, having Aaron kill him, but I mean, his body looked like he was suffering, but his voice didn't tell me that. So, you know, I think my favorite kill is when Leatherface kills Pepper. And the only reason why is you can hear the chainsaw slow down when it
I remember
hits
that.
flesh. And then the look on Jessica Biel's face, you know, for what it was. I'll say that was my favorite kill.
Now, they edited one scene where Morgan got killed. The chainsaw was supposed to actually go up through him, up past his stomach, and everything was supposed to fall out, but they thought it was too gruesome and it would have given it an X rating. Would that have been one of your favorite scenes?
Yes. And again,
It would have been a glory kill.
Yeah,
you know?
well, how memorable these characters were. I forgot all about Morgan until you said that. And that's right. He hangs him on the fucking hook.
Or he puts him on the chandelier.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It was a chandelier. And then he brings the chainsaw up in between his legs. So,
yeah. And Morgan, I thought, was one of the most douchiest, besides Kemper. Kemper won the award. Morgan was pretty douchey.
yeah, he was annoying. And I kind of wanted Hoyt to kick his ass.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought it was kind of funny. That I love the bit where he smashes him with the whiskey bottle or whatever he's drinking, and it just crushes his mouth. And he knows right there he's fucked. Yeah, my favorite scene was when it was over.
Mine too. I was just thinking when I saw the credits, it's like finally.
Can I get an agreement on all of that? Was that was everybody's?
I think we can agree on that.
All right.
Okay, so now let's compare both the original and the remake. If you had to pick a movie that had the better story, the better script, which one would it be, Don?
I'm going to go ahead and give it to the first one.
Ken?
Original.
I think we know, TJ.
TJ is going to be original on all of these questions.
Yeah.
I think we're going to make it unanimous, even though I thought the beginning dragged on too long in the first one. First one had a better story to tell. Which one had the better soundtrack?
I'm going to say the second one, actually. I think that the music was a little bit better, and the sound design I thought was good. I mean, if you watch a movie in the right conditions and the sound design is pretty good, it makes an effect. And so I'll give it to the second one.
Ken, you got a preference?
Original.
I can't believe that you're saying that, because when I was thinking about the soundtrack for the remake, I don't remember a single track. I knew that there were like action tracks and like the thudding bass moments or whatever you want to call it, but they're all just, there's nothing to it. And that sound from the original, the original camera sound is just instantly identifiable.
But they only use it in the very beginning, and they use it in the very beginning of the second one too.
But I feel like they use it in a really gimmicky way in the second one, because they even use it when Leatherface like peeks through again, and it's like that's not Leatherface's stinger, or that's not his like theme. It's like it's the atmosphere of the movie,
right? But that sound effect is what Texas Chainsaw Massacre is known for. When you hear that noise, that's what,
saying. Like,
right? But you get that in the first one, and you get it in the second one.
I just feel like the choice of like instrumentation is like more creatively inspired in the first one as well. Like just the use of industrial noises and all that stuff. I just feel like that's like just a creative direction to go in.
I think it was used better, is what I think you're kind of saying. Now, an interesting point, the second movie, originally the soundtrack was supposed to be done by Marilyn Manson, but he had to drop out. So I don't know if that would have made any difference, but I actually have to lean towards TJ in that I felt like the sound effects and the music was used better in the first one than it was in the second one. So I'm going to give it to the first one as well.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay, well, let's now look at best kills. Which of the movies had the better kills?
I'm going to go with the first one.
Ken?
Original.
Yeah, I mean, we only remember the officer's death from the remake. I mean, everyone else's death is forgettable in the remake. The original is just, it's got that snuff film quality that just irks you to the core.
Do we have a villain preference? Which Leatherface or family, I don't know if you want to count the family as a villain or just Leatherface, but which one had the better bad guys?
I'm going to go with the original.
Original,
yeah.
The second one, he looked like he was coming out of a Halloween shop. Yeah. And then I didn't care for all the additional family members.
Well, everyone in Texas is involved in the plot, to kidnap people on their way to Leonard Skinner concerts. And
yeah, it got to a point in the second one, I think, that you knew every person she's going to be, run into is in on it. I was surprised at the end when the truck driver wasn't also one of the family members.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, me too.
And he's going to be part of it. What? He's not?
But in an ironic M. Night Shyamalan twist, he's going to take her back to the family anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got to agree with everyone. The first one is the better villains. Which one had the more suspense and tension?
I think that the second one didn't succeed very well. So I'll give it to the first.
Okay.
Original.
TJ, do I even need to ask?
Original, for sure.
I will say I can understand what the second one was going for. Didn't work. There was no tense scenes. You just knew something was about to happen. You knew he was going to find her. You knew that Leatherface was about to pop out. No tension, no suspense. So I'm going to go with the first one. Now comes the big question. Who had the better final girl? I think I know the answer to this. Don?
The better final girl. I like that they tried to make Jessica Biel a strong final girl. I'm all for girl power and, all of that. However, I think that because Sally was the first, she wins.
Ken, you got one?
Original.
Yeah, original. I like that Sally feels extraordinarily lucky to make it out alive. Because in that final dinner scene, it's sort of like they're like, there's no escape here. She's bound to the chair. She's stuck here, and the rest of her life, however long it may be, the rest of the night, or maybe she lives in the basement for the next couple of years, like the rest of it is just going to be agony. And her getting away and laughing maniacally is just, it's like, yeah, that's the only way you come out of that.
This is where I'm going to have to disagree with the group. I agree that she was a great actress. She did a good job. I do like, as you were saying, Don, you quoted girl power. I like when they give the female character a little bit more backbone. I found myself in the first movie just kind of hoping Sally would die just to get it over with. I was actually, it was pretty obvious that Jessica Biel was going to get away in the end, but I was kind of glad to see her get away. I wasn't looking forward to seeing her die. So I found myself rooting for Jessica more than Sally. So that's why I'm going to give it to Jessica. Now, if you had to pick one of the movies, as painful as it might be, which one would you say you would, if they said, okay, we're going to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which year would you point to? Which one's more rewatchable?
Easy, the original.
Original.
TJ, I'm marking original for you.
Yeah, but what I want to add is, like, I don't know who watches the 2003 and thinks, man, I just want to rewind that one. Let's buy more tickets. Let's get back in there, rewatch that.
I do want to give the score because the new one did get 1 point in one category. It had more kills than the first movie. It was 5 kills to 8 kills. So that's the only point they get. Otherwise, it's 7-1. The original wins the award.
All right, so the original wins out of the two. Which one would you watch? Not that it was a big contest or even close in the voting. They say that this was based on true events, and the reality of it is that Leatherface was based on Ed Gein.
Basically, this was a man who, if you want a little background story on him.
I don't.
He grew up with a super religious mother and a very alcoholic father. The alcoholic father drank himself to death and left him and his brother Henry alone with the super religious mother. The mother showed a lot of affection towards Henry and not Edward. So Edward, one day when there was a big fire in their field, Henry mysteriously disappeared. They found him later asphyxiated. So Edward has always been suspected of killing his brother. So then it was just him and his mother. The mother went on to have a couple of strokes. She died, leaving Ed all alone, and then went on to start grave robbing and decorating the rest of the house with the bones and body parts that he found in his grave robberies. He made things like a belt out of nipples, human nipples. He sewed together different suits made of skin. His depravity eventually got to the point where he killed 2 people, including a tavern owner who when the police found her at his farm, she was hung up like a deer, and he had stripped her down, like taken all the skin off, everything, taken all the guts out, and was getting her ready for whatever he was going to do. He was actually the inspiration for movies like Silence of the Lambs because he actually made a female suit that he would wear. He had made a mask out of one of the dead people. So he inspired, Leatherface. He inspired, Silence of the Lambs. He inspired Psycho. There's all these other, there's even a musical made out of this guy, and I think we should put that in the hat.
All right. Should we rate these bitches?
I think so.
How do we do our ratings, Ken?
Well, we have a 1 to 5 scale that we use. So 5 chainsaws is that I am ready to fire that bad boy up right now. You know what? Yes, sir. I am ready right now to get that chainsaw out. What do we need whacking up? Let's get to it. I am game right now. And a 1 is, oh my God, what did I just do? I can't live with myself. I can never, ever get a chainsaw again. And a 3 is, I think that, okay, Yeah, all right, yeah. I'll get my chainsaw out. Let's go. What are we whacking up? Who is this again? It doesn't matter. Yeah, okay.
Are you still explaining this?
What would a zero be?
A zero would be that if you even show me a chainsaw, I am going to kick you in the fucking balls, and I'm going to take that chainsaw and ram it so far up your ass that cutting the cheese is going to take a whole new meaning.
Anybody want to rate this first? Ken, do you want to go?
Sure, why not? What the heck? The first Texas Chainsaw, like I said at the outset, this is a raw watch, and it is a unique experience that I have not had in any other horror movie. It just feels a lot different than any other horror movie. I am seriously impressed with how well it has held up in watching it again recently. It was every bit as good as what I remembered it, and it's certainly worth watching again. I will give the original a 3.5. As for the remake, the 2003 remake, it was a very boring watch. I felt no tension, as I said before, and all of the characters are forgettable. It's laughable at several points. The plot line of all of these extra characters is absurd, and I am easily giving this one a 1.
All right. 3.5 and a 1. John?
I am glad I watched the first one. I'm glad I had that experience to see it. I feel like I got everything out of it that I could potentially get out of it. I also, like I said, I felt it was disturbing as enough that it went over my limit of being disturbing to the point where I have no desire to watch it again. If someone said, hey, do you want to come watch the original Chainsaw Massacre with me? I'm going to say, no, I think I'm going to pass on that. So unfortunately, I'm going to give the original a 1.0. For the sequel, even worse. I have no desire to see that. I agree with you, Don, that all of the characters were worthless. I was just basically waiting to see, okay, well, how are they going to kill this one next? Or what are they going to do to kill this one? Or how are they going to up the scale on this one? So really, I didn't get anything out of it. Don't need to see it again. If I want to go see a movie like it, I'm going to watch, one of the other slasher movies out there. So for that one, I'm even going to give it lower. I'm going to go I'm going to go to a 0.5 for that one.
I thought that the 1974 version will always go down as the movie that kind of started the whole genre of the slasher. And I appreciate how it was made. For the time, it was terrifying. And even now, it can still be terrifying. And it all goes back to, it feels like you're watching a snuff film. Right. And so Leatherface isn't my favorite of the villains we have out there, or even the villains we're going to talk about in this series. But he is, disturbing, and he is an icon. And there are people out there that absolutely love him. I do want to see, I don't know, TJ, if you've seen it, but I do want to see the 4K version of this film. Just to see how they upgraded it and see what's what. It's not going to stop Sally from screaming any less, but I'd still check it out. And because the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is what it is, it will always be a classic in my book. So I'm going to go ahead and give the Texas Chainsaw Massacre a 2.5, right there in the middle. The remake, I don't know what else I can say about the remake that I haven't already said. I appreciate what the filmmakers were trying to do with taking this story and making it somewhat different and somewhat original, and being a remake at the same time. The problem is they just didn't do a very good job at it. Everything annoyed me about it, so I'm going to give it a 0.5.
You want to go to TJ next?
Well, why would he get a rating? Is it going to factor into all the other ratings? Are you going to make a special column for him on the website?
No, what I'd like to hear, his rating.
I wouldn't. I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to cut it anyway. What'd you think?
Your rating system is on rewatchability. And for that reason alone, I would give it a 4 out of 5 and not 5 out of 5. Because it's not a movie that I'd want to watch in quick succession of it. It's definitely a movie I'd love to show to anyone who has no context for it or hasn't seen it. I would sort of be like, oh yeah, we got to watch the original right now. Or we got to watch it soon. But yeah, but it is a movie where I agree with what you're saying, John, as far as just the screaming of it. I am okay with sitting down to watch this movie once a year or just long breaks in between it. And also just because like for me, a really really good movie is like something that you kind of savor, and it's like for me, even rewatching it, I love the movie, but when we rewatched it, it almost felt like it wasn't the right setting for it, because like I was in between work and I really wanted to enjoy it. It's a movie that you want to pop in when it's dark out, when you don't really have like any sort of idea of what you're getting into, and if you're showing it to someone who doesn't know what they're about to get into, the treat is just the insanity that ensues, and just watching all the chaos of this, this unfortunate tragedy that befalls 5, teens in idyllic backwoods Texas. And the remake, to me, I would even go as far as to say is I want my time back. It reminds me a lot of the Psycho remake, where it's like practically the same story. The Psycho remake obviously being like a shot-for-shot remake, but to me, like, yes, you could say the filmmakers are making some like new decisions, but like it's by and large the same plot. Like it's got the same moments, and it's just lamer. It's just everything about it is just lamer. The casting's worse, the soundtrack's worse, the pacing is worse. It's a grosser movie. I wouldn't show this movie to anyone because I don't want anyone to watch Arlie Ermy joke about sexually assaulting a corpse. And I also don't want anyone to watch the wheelchair guy like grabbing that one girl's ass. Like, that's just gross. I don't need to see that on a TV. It's just, the movie was excessive. It was boring too, which was odd to say that it was both excessive and boring. Yeah, just zero. Absolute zero. There's nothing worthy.
All right, so I think that's going to wrap it up for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The other films we have in store for you for this series is we're going to take a look at Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and we're going to wrap it all up with Halloween, the originals and the remakes. So stay tuned for that. Any final words on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I found that me watching Top Chef, I watched Top Chef, and having that in part of my regular rotation and then watching both of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies made for some very interesting dreams that I had.
Hey, were you chased by a guy who was all burnt up and had really long razor fingers?
No, I was not.
It must have been me.
I thought he was going to go with that he had some new recipes he wanted to try.
Oh my God, that would have been even better. That's funny. I think that's going to wrap it up. I want to thank our special guest, TJ. Everything you said was dumb, and I now feel more stupid for having to listen to you for all this time, but you know.
Hey, you let me in.
He says the same thing to me every week.
You let me in.
Yeah, that's true. That's my bad, right? I'm the one that said, hey, bring DJ along.
Now when he get out of the basement.
So, hey, John, where can they find us?
They can find us at our website, www.3guysinaflick.com. Every popular and pretty much unpopular podcasting hosting site, because I've thrown our thing up everywhere. In fact, I just added a couple more. They can find us on Facebook, Twitter. I think we have an Instagram account. We're going to get a TikTok account and make Dawn dance. That's coming soon, so look forward to that. I think that's pretty much it.
All right. So I just want to thank our 2 faithful listeners for checking us out, and stay tuned.
Well, one of them's here. TJ.
He's not a faithful listener. How many of ours have you listened to?
I've listened to 3.
That's pretty faithful.
Really?
Well, I listened to The Matrix.
Is it you're going to give him props for that?
Hey, that's what, two more than Ken's listened to?
I've been spending a lot more time in the car, so.
Oh, well played, dude. Well played. All right. So on that note, stay tuned for next week when we will be talking about Friday the 13th. For 3 Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John.
And I'm Ken. Thanks for listening.
drive me up the fucking wall. And you, could you say less next time, please? You guys are fucking killing me.
I do want to now go out. You know, it doesn't make me want to eat like vegetables and stuff, but it does make me want to go out and buy a chainsaw.
Why?
You can get a lot done with a chainsaw, man. I mean, like, you remember that bit when the original movie when Leatherface is trying to get through the door and he can't quite open up the door handle? He just hacks that shit up.
Well,
Gets right through.
which I thought, dude, now you got to replace the fucking
Well,
door.
I love that the older brother is like, look at what you did to the door.
Yeah.
He couldn't just kick the door with those big
Right?
feet?
That's what I was saying.
Well,
yeah.
if you got a chainsaw, I mean, every problem is just solved with the chainsaw.
Yeah, but you're always fucking fixing shit then. Right? I mean, shit, Junior went through the fucking hallway again. Look at this fucking big slice.
Yeah, but look what Ash Williams did with the chainsaw.
All right, dude, stop bringing up Evil Dead. It's not a good movie. It's not a good series, and we're not talking about it ever again.
I think we will.
All right, fuck you all. I love you. Good night.